Welcome to Illuvium Zero, the highly anticipated and long-awaited companion game to Illuvium. Illuvium is essentially a AAA mashup of Pokemon and teamfight tactics. This game is designed to enhance your experience in the main Illuvium game by allowing you to actually mine fuels that you can then use to go out on missions in the main Illuvium game to capture Illuvials, which are little creatures that are inhabiting this strange world. Now, when they first talked about Illuvium Zero, this game looked much different than it does today. They've spent the last 6 to 12 months really working on upping the fidelity of the project and making the art look in line with their typical art from the main Illuvium game. Because the fans were kind of disappointed in the effort that this took to create and the level of fidelity that it had at the time. And I don't know about you, but I would say that this is very impressive for a mobile game. I'm playing it on my Windows desktop right now, but the quality just on display here and the actual attention to detail of all of these assets is pretty impressive. I don't have any buildings in place yet, so we'll get to take a look at those in a moment, but just panning around this map that I've been given here is honestly a treat for the eyes, and you can really zoom in and capture some more of that detail. This place that we're in currently is called the Crystal Shores, and so you can see all of the light refracting off of the crystals that have gathered here on top of these sands, and the strange foreign crystalline fauna and flowers and everything. It's very impressive. Their art team is wicked good, and this is just another example of their incredible talent. So essentially what Illuvium Zero is, as they've described it, is a city builder game. And so what this means is you'll put down buildings that allow you to collect these resources. And the main gameplay loop is you deciding where to put these buildings to get the most efficiency out of them so that you can harvest resources better, as well as capture these blueprints of Illuvials that you can then use to kind of unlock new skins in the main game. And essentially think like Clash of Clans, where you're placing your buildings down, you're tapping upgrade, and you're either waiting for a set amount of time or spending to speed up that time that you're actually waiting. And so that introduces microtransactions into this game. There are things called credits up here in the top right. And so I have 20 of them, but essentially what they're attempting to do is have 1 credit equal 1 hour of time sped up in the game. Microtransactions aren't necessarily available in the alpha, but they will be coming for the full release of this Illuvium Zero game. And they're planning to tie that into the whole Illuvium revenue distribution for their token holders. So I have some mixed feelings about that. For one, it seems like they're really intending this game to target people who already play Illuvium, because if you don't have a land plot in Illuvium, then you're not allowed to earn, and there are only going to be 100,000 of those total. And so that means that the actual amount of earning players will be significantly lower than that, because there will be people who have multiple plots. And I think if you're not attracting like a wider audience to this game that you've clearly put a whole lot of time and effort into, that could be a problem, because you're really just milking your main consumer base for even more money than they were originally going to give you, right? And I get that the fuel kind of pays you, but you're putting in an initial investment for the land to actually run this game and make profit off of it, so to speak, by fueling the endeavors of other players or even yourself. And I don't think that the microtransactions angle is really going to make them very much money unless they open it up to a wider audience who is playing it. And I can't see in its current state a whole lot of people outside of the main core Illuvium player base wanting to enjoy this game, but we'll talk about that more in a bit. So I mentioned land plots just a moment ago. Let's quickly go over my land plot and how I got access to the alpha, in case you're interested in getting access yourself. So here I am at the land page on Illuvium's website, and what this does is it gives you a full overview of what land is and how it impacts you. So if you need some more information, go here. But Essentially, there are all these different biomes that exist in Illuvium, and you are allowed to purchase a land plot on one of these biomes that then allows you to extract the resources out of it in Illuvium Zero and then redistribute them as you see fit on the blockchain to any of the other players of Illuvium to allow them to go out on adventures and fuel their capturing of these wild alluvials. And so these land plots are a pretty integral part of the economy in Illuvium, and they have implemented this fuel system to kind of cap players that are getting a little overzealous and trying to extract too much from the main Illuvium economy. And so this is kind of all a balancing act, essentially, to reward different types of players in the game. The players that own land are probably more interested in the economy side of the game and gaming the actual markets, whereas the main Illuvium game is targeted towards shooter players because you've got the third-person aspect of running around the world and capturing alluvials, going through essentially an adventure style of game and exploration. And then you've got the auto battler aspect, which appeals to a very specific type of player that wants to strategize and really game the system to optimize their team as best as possible. And so if neither of those appeal to you, then you've got Illuvium Land, which is a much more slow-paced style of game that really just, once you've figured out kind of the way that the systems works, is all about efficiency and optimization. There are also different tiers of land, and so depending on which tier of land that you buy between 1 through 5, you'll have different resources that spawn on that land and different amounts of these resources. So you're incentivized to kind of purchase the most high tier land that you can afford because you're going to get more bonuses than if you just had like a few lower tier lands, for example. And so these lower tier lands are still kind of pricey for what you get. I mean, you're talking about $600 in the middle of a bear market. I think when they released, these went for about $1,500, so let's take a look at that. Okay, no, so they minted at a relatively stable price, actually, which is pretty interesting because I'll show you what my land plot minted for that I own. I got it for, I think a pretty good deal, a steal, if you will. So I own one of these tier 2 land plots, and they're currently going for about $1,500. Looks like now almost $1,700. These were minted from anywhere from about $1,700 to $3,000, depending on how early you minted it. And they did kind of a tiered system, but that doesn't really matter. They're going to be releasing new land plots. This is just the initial batch of the first 20,000 or so to kind of gauge interest. And it was one of the biggest grossing land sales ever, and it happened in June. But here's my land plot, and so you can see that it's got a few different resources on it, and we'll go over those in the actual gameplay section. But you can see here that some poor soul minted this for almost $4,000, and I was able to secure it for about $1,250. The mint price that was kind of average for these plots of 2-tier land was much lower than the 3 ETH that he paid for it. That being said, this is still a really good deal that I got on this land because, I mean, even right now they're going for 1.4 ETH. So I can flip this now for a pretty nice profit. And I'm going to be posting more speculative catalysts in my private community, Web Freedom. And if you'd like to take a look at that, check the description below. But now back to the game, and I'm going to start placing my first real buildings and start meshing this out. But you can see my resource pools here. So these are fuel pools, the Krypton rifts here that I've got. I have 2 of those and 1 of these Solon trenches. So that means that I'm missing the Hyperion fuel on this plot. But one of the things that the developers have made clear is that they're going to allow you to use what are called converters to change over your fuel types or even your resource types in general with minimal loss. So that way you're not really penalized by having certain types of fuel on your land. It just makes it more of an interesting challenge to kind of get to the end result that you're looking for. So I think that that's a nice little way to gamify it a bit more and make the challenge more apparent while still allowing people to maximize the hand that they're dealt essentially with the land that they have. All right, so I'm gonna place down my first structure. That would be the Nexus. Thankfully, it's a pretty quick build time, so we'll just figure out the best spot to put it for now, and then we can move it later because I have a feeling I am not going to optimize this correctly the first time around. All right, so it just kind of holographically materializes. It's a pretty, you can see it kind of become more solid as the actual timer ticks down, which I think is pretty nice. That's a cool touch. I'm going up in the world. All right. So now I'm level 2. I've hit some goals. And yes, there are some rewards that I can claim here that give me some extra resources to kind of kickstart me. So very simple architecture, similar to a lot of these kind of building mobile games. They mentioned Simpsons Tap Out and Clash of Clans in their kind of overview of this game. And I'm definitely seeing some similarities there. All right, so let's see if we can build some new structures. So it looks like we can do the engineering workshop, which will help us build other structures. So kind of just a generic building hut. So we'll plop that down somewhere. Shouldn't take long. I'm gonna tap this Nexus. Let's get some info about it. All right, so it allows us to have 5 structures. I don't know what airdrop is. Let's take a look there. Oh. Okay, so this takes a day to do, but it gives you some free resources. So that's kind of nice if you're in a pinch. So let's see if we can upgrade this. All right, so it's gonna take 10 minutes. So I'm gonna wait on that because I only have one builder and I don't wanna tie him up for too long while I'm trying to get started here. Okay, so this allows for a hydrogen pump, sediment excavator, so basically your extractors here for all the resources. Now, this is kind of nice. They actually add in like what you get from the upgrade in green here. I think that that's pretty nice little quality of life feature. This is an alpha state, so the fact that they've done some more of these QOL things like right off the bat is a really good sign in my opinion. So this requires the Nexus level 2 and some more resources that I don't have. So I guess we'll start plopping down some extractors. Oh, I got another goal here to check out. Oh, okay, scrolling does not really move that menu. So there are some bugs that I've picked out. So the first one being that this game is not allowed to be full screen. I just have it maximized in the window up here. And I think that's probably just because, you know, this is an early alpha and they haven't figured out kind of how they want to do all of these settings yet, because there are no graphics quality settings in the build that they have currently either. And then an actual bug that I've found would be when you click this activity pane, it cuts off all the sound until you click on something else in the game, and then it pops it back. So those are easy fixes that they'll be able to iterate on and make quick work of, but just wanted to point those out in case you noticed those in your playthrough. All right, so we'll go to build, and they have all of these tabs here. It looks like I can build another engineering workshop, actually. I'm not sure why I would want to, so we're gonna wait on that. And okay, let's go ahead and start with the sediment excavator. And can I place that on some sediment? All right, looks like this black kind of coal-like resource there is what we're looking for. I guess it's supposed to be carbon, isn't it? So yeah, that would make sense. All right, so we'll go ahead and drop that down. All right, so I'm just kind of panning around here because I don't remember where all my resources are on this plot yet. So it looks like this is crystal. So is that silicon, probably? And then the lakes are the hydrogen. So that all makes sense. So we're taking this like raw coal, turning it into carbon, taking the crystal and refining it into silicon, and then taking the H2O and turning it into H. So this all kind of makes sense from a engineering and logistical standpoint. I think that they have spent a lot of time thinking about, you know, the elements in this game, and they have all of these very cool alien things that are broken down into things that we understand. It's a really nice touch. All right, so that's the first extractor done. So now we should be able to see how many resources we're getting per second. Oh, so I have to click excavate. Oh, I see. So that's kind of where the whole logging in to actually monitor everything comes in. You actually have to tap on an excavator to get it to excavate. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, we only have a 1-minute timer here because this is a low-level excavator, so I assume that that will scale up as you kind of go through the motions, and that you're going to be required to spend a bit more time like getting everything up and running initially. But that is an interesting way of doing it. Usually in these type of games, it works the other way, where you have a set amount of storage and it just collects up to that cap, and you have to kind of log in order to pull everything out of that storage and into your main inventory. Not sure which I like better. I guess we'll have to play around with this and see. All right, so I got my 333 carbon, that's nice. I'm gonna build the extractor for hydrogen because I need that for my upgrades. So we'll go ahead and build a hydrogen pump, which requires carbon. That's kind of fun. And since I only have that one lake, but I have the 3 crystal deposits, might make sense for me to think about building some hydrogen converters. So, all right, this condenser plant is the hydrogen converter, but I need the engineering workshop too in order to get that done. So we'll go ahead and work on that here shortly. But this will convert water in the atmosphere to hydrogen and other elements into hydrogen. So I'm not sure if that's like a choice that I have to make between it collecting just passively or if that will just happen. I guess we'll find out. All right, so now that this is done, I'm gonna go ahead and start upgrading my Nexus so that I can get my engineering workshop to level 2. Ooh, that was expensive. All right, thankfully I had enough resources for that. So we're gonna go ahead and wait for that to get done. Looks like they have some kind of leveling system for whenever you create new buildings or harvest things. I'm not exactly sure, what this does yet, but I'll keep you posted. So while this building finishes up, I just want to talk really quickly about my thoughts about the end game from how the Illuvium team have described it, since I'm obviously not quite there yet. I do think that once you kind of figure out how to optimize everything on your particular land plot, and you've kind of figured out how you like everything to be set up, there's not really a whole lot else to do other than log in and collect your resources every day. And I think that that's really going to limit the potential of this game to reach a larger audience, how I touched on earlier. And I think that that's really crucial to A, getting the world of Illuvium into more people's hands so that they can enjoy and experience this incredible game that they've created, and B, driving revenue from this game that they've clearly spent a lot of time and dedication to. And I do think that the core gameplay loop here is pretty enjoyable so far. I am really liking Illuvium Zero, but I just wish there was more to it than just the city building aspect. Like Clash of Clans, the game that they're talking about emulating for the city building aspect, also has the clash part, not just the clan part, right? And so they have this whole battling game where you can log in, collect your soldiers, and send them off to do stuff. And I wish Illuvium Zero had something like that, like another layer of complexity to actually make it so that it would be appealing to the free-to-play player that's not just logging in to harvest resources for this game. Now, I get that they wanted it to be a companion game to this main Illuvium game and not spend any more time on it than they already have, but that kind of thing is pretty difficult to add down the road. Like, it's an entirely new gameplay loop and mechanics. So I don't know, maybe if they see enough success, they could do something like that. I think that that would really help expose this to more free-to-play players and more players who might not know about the Illuvium universe but want to try it out. All right, that's taken care of, and I leveled up. All right, let's see what kind of goals, rewards we've got here. Oh, right, we're full on storage. Okay, so I'll keep building some things. Oh, okay, so in order to get the fuel, I need some kind of quantum fabricant. Oh, okay, so you can actually sell your resources, your fuel, in-game. That's pretty nice, actually. Oh, I see, I need engineering workshop 4. Okay, so we'll work on that. For now, let's get some storage online. We'll just put it over in the middle of nowhere for now. Oh, okay, so that significantly boosts it. And when you upgrade it, you get an even bigger boost. All right. Doesn't take very long, so we'll be upgrading all those shortly. So obviously Illuvium Zero is going to require quite a bit of in-game hours in order to maximize and figure out, kind of how all the systems work. So I'll post an update video once I've gotten some more time on hands with this. But if you'd like to go ahead and check out the Illuvium Overworld so that you're not frustrated when that game comes out and you can understand how the main mechanics work, go ahead and check out this video on screen now. But yeah, overall, I'm super positive on Illuvium Zero. I've really enjoyed this experience, and I tend to gravitate towards these kind kind of games anyway, so I'm very much catered to here, and I'm liking it so far, minus those couple of gripes that I talked about earlier. Thanks. I'll catch you in the next one.